Imagine this. You're in the middle of a conversation with someone you care about, maybe your partner, your child, or even a colleague at work. They say something that stings, or they misunderstand you, or maybe they push a button you didn't even realize was so sensitive. And before you even know what's happening, words are leaving your mouth. Words you didn't plan, words sharper than you intended. You see the look on their face, and in that instant, you already regret it. You didn't mean to snap, but it's too late. The damage is done. That's the moment almost every one of us has lived through, often more times than we'd like to admit. You didn't choose your tone, it chose you. You didn't decide on your words, they just spilled out like a reflex. And then you spend the next few minutes or hours or even days repairing the impact of that one outburst. Sound familiar? If it does, it's not because you're a bad communicator or an overly emotional person. It's because your brain is wired for speed, not for reflection. Your nervous system is designed to react before it's designed to reflect. But here's where the game changes. There's one micro tool so small you could miss it if I didn't point it out. A single pause, less than a second. A pause in your breath, right before you speak. That one pause is enough to shift the entire trajectory of your conversations, your relationships, and even the way people see you. Let's break this down together. I want to give you not just an idea, but a mental model you'll never forget. Think of it like a bridge. On one side is the raw impulse, the automatic reaction, the flood of emotion that wants to take over your voice. On the other side is intention, the thoughtful version of you who wants to speak with clarity, with strength, with kindness. Between those two sides is a gap, and most of the time we just fall straight into it. The words rush out before intention ever gets a chance to show up. But what if there were a bridge across that gap? The pause before the word is that bridge. It doesn't take minutes of meditation. It doesn't take hours of self-control. It takes one breath, one tiny beat of silence, one space between stimulus and response. And that space, as Viktor Frankl once wrote, is where our power lies. Power to choose, to adjust, to lead the moment instead of being dragged by it. Now, why does such a small thing matter so much? Because when you pause, you hijack your nervous system in the best possible way. In high-stakes moments, your body often shifts into what's called a sympathetic state, the fight or flight mode. Your heart rate rises, your breathing shortens, and your brain prepares to react fast. That's why the words fly out before you think. A pause in your breath acts like a reset button. It signals to your nervous system, we're not in danger, we're in dialogue. And in less than a second, your body begins to shift from reaction to regulation. Suddenly, you're not just a passenger to your emotions, you're in the driver's seat. Here's a simple structure I want you to remember. I call it the 3 layers of the pause. Each one builds on the other, and together they give you mastery over the moments that usually control you. The first layer is physiological. This is the pure body effect. When you pause for even half a breath before speaking, you lengthen the exhale just slightly. That signals calm to your brain. It's the same principle used in stress reduction techniques, but condensed into a split second. Your voice comes out steadier, your words slower, and the entire room feels it. The second layer is psychological. The pause creates a pocket of awareness. It's like you've opened a tiny window to ask yourself, is what I'm about to say aligned with what I want to achieve here? That question doesn't even need to be conscious. Your brain fills it in naturally. Suddenly, instead of blurting out the first impulse, you access a higher quality response. The third layer is social. This is where it gets really fascinating. To the person listening to you, that pause doesn't look like hesitation. It looks like authority. People who pause before speaking are perceived as more thoughtful, more confident, more in control. The silence isn't empty, it's powerful. It says, I value my words enough to choose them carefully. That's how a pause becomes not just an internal tool, but an external signal of respect and strength. Think about the last time someone snapped at you. Maybe their words were sharp, their tone cutting. Even if they apologized later, did the sting disappear instantly? Probably not. That's the cost of unfiltered speech. It leaves traces. Now, imagine the opposite. Imagine someone who, even in a tense moment, takes that tiny pause. Their words come out clear, grounded, intentional. How do you perceive them? As calm, as trustworthy, as someone you can follow or respect. That's the shift the pause creates, not only in how you feel, but in how the world feels about you. Let me give you a practical example. You're in a meeting. Someone criticizes your work in a way that feels unfair. Your instinct is to fire back, "That's not true," or "You don't understand." But you catch yourself. You take one breath. In that second, you realize you don't want to look defensive. You want to look composed. So instead of snapping, you say, "I hear your point. Can I clarify my perspective?" The entire energy of the room shifts. You've controlled the frame, not lost it. Or take it at home. Your child spills something again. Your body surges with frustration. The old pattern is to say, "How many times do I have to tell you?" But the pause interrupts it. One breath, then softer words. "Let's clean this up together." You still communicate correction, but without the sting. And in that moment, you're not just managing the mess, you're modeling emotional intelligence. That's the true ripple effect of the pause. Here's a question worth asking yourself. How many arguments, how many misunderstandings, how many regrets in your life came not from what you truly felt, but from what you said too quickly? And how many of those moments could have shifted if you had just given yourself 1 second of space? When you start seeing it this way, the pause isn't just a technique. It's a superpower. It's the difference between being ruled by reflex and being guided by intention. And the best part? It's available to you every single time you open your mouth. No equipment, no training, no waiting. Just one choice. Pause before word. Now let's get even more practical. I want you to think about this as a chain reaction. Without the pause, the chain looks like this: trigger, emotion, reaction, regret. You've lived this cycle, we all have. With the pause, the chain transforms. Trigger, emotion, pause, intention, response, respect. That one tiny link inserted between emotion and word rewrites the outcome. And once you experience it even once, you'll realize how powerful it is. It's like discovering a hidden button on the remote control of your own life. You don't just react anymore, you respond. And response is where influence lives. But here's the truth. The pause will feel unnatural at first. Why? Because silence feels like weakness when you're not used to it. Your brain screams, "Fill the gap, say something." That's the habit of reaction speaking. But if you can sit in that half second of silence, you'll notice something. The discomfort fades, and in its place comes presence. People lean in. They listen more. They give weight to your words. It's not hesitation, it's gravitas. And over time, that gravitas becomes part of your identity. You stop being the person who blurts. You become the person whose words carry weight. That's a transformation worth chasing. So let's anchor this with a practice. Starting today, notice one situation where you feel a spark of emotion rising, irritation, defensiveness, excitement even. Instead of letting it jump straight into words, breathe once. A small inhale, a small exhale, then speak. That's it. Do it once and you'll feel the difference. Do it daily and it will rewire you. Because here's the deeper truth. Every pause is not just a tool for communication, it's a training session for your brain. It's teaching your nervous system. I can feel and still choose. I can be provoked and still stay steady. That's resilience. That's leadership. That's self-respect in action. And it all begins in less than a second. Now, you might be wondering, will people notice? The answer is yes, but not in the way you fear. They won't think you're awkward. They'll think you're thoughtful. They won't think you're slow. They'll think you're wise. The pause creates a perception gap. Inside, you feel the effort of holding back, but outside, they see the composure of someone in control. That's the magic. What feels tiny to you looks huge to them, and the ripple effect doesn't stop there. The more you practice, the less you even need to consciously pause. Your nervous system begins to build a new default. Feel, breathe, speak. The pause embeds itself into your rhythm, and suddenly you're not forcing it anymore. You're embodying it. And that's when you'll know you've unlocked something permanent. Here's the deeper layer to understand. The pause is not just about avoiding mistakes. It's about building a completely new relationship with your own voice. When you pause before speaking, you send a message to yourself as much as to others. You're saying, "I am in charge of my words. I don't speak on autopilot. I choose." And that message, repeated dozens of times every day, rewires not only your communication but your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who loses it in arguments or someone who always regrets what they said. You begin to see yourself as someone steady, composed, intentional. And when your self-image changes, your behavior naturally follows. That's the true hidden power of this practice. It's not just about one conversation. It's about who you become through those conversations. Let's take this framework one step further. Imagine the pause technique as a triangle with three sides, three transformations that happen in less than a second. The first side is control. The pause gives you immediate control over your tone, your timing, and your emotional temperature. That one breath acts like a thermostat, preventing your words from being overheated. The second side is clarity. In that micro gap, your brain filters options. Instead of blurting the first thought, you reach for the better thought. You still speak honestly, but with precision instead of bluntness. The third side is connection. Here's the part people often miss. The pause doesn't only change how you feel, it changes how the other person feels with you. Silence makes space. It gives them the sense that you're listening, that you're measured, that you respect them enough not to lash out impulsively. So in 1 second, you gain control, clarity, and connection, the three ingredients of powerful communication. That's not just a tool, that's a strategy for life. Now, I want you to picture a very practical situation. You're at work. A colleague interrupts you during a presentation, questioning your approach. Your instinct is to cut them off and defend yourself immediately. But instead, you pause. You let a breath come and go. The room feels the silence. And then you say, "That's an interesting point. Let's explore it." The difference is night and day. In the first version, you look defensive. In the second, you look confident and collaborative. Same person, same moment, different choice, triggered by one pause. Or think about your personal life. A partner says something careless, maybe out of their own stress. The old you snaps back with, "Why would you say that?" The new you pauses, breathes, and says, "That hurt. Can we talk about it?" One leads to escalation, the other to resolution. Same emotion inside, but transformed by the gap before the word. Some of you might be thinking, what if I forget to pause in the heat of the moment? And that's a fair question because we all slip into reflex sometimes. The answer is, practice in low-stakes situations. The pause is like a muscle. Don't wait until you're in a full-blown argument to try it. Start when the stakes are small. When you're in casual conversation and someone asks you a question, pause before answering. When you're ordering food, pause before saying your choice. When you're greeting someone, pause before you reply. These micro-practices train your brain to get comfortable with silence. And then, when the high-stakes moment comes, the pause isn't foreign anymore. It's natural. It's built in. And that's when you'll feel its real power. Here's something fascinating from psychology. Studies show that people who allow brief pauses before answering are rated as more intelligent, more thoughtful, and more trustworthy. It's not the length of your words that matters. It's the weight behind them. And silence, strategically placed, gives your words that weight. Think of the best speakers, leaders, or mentors you've ever listened to. Did they rush through their sentences, tripping over words? Or did they hold space, letting their words breathe? The pause is the secret sauce of presence. It's what makes people lean forward, waiting for what you'll say next. And you can harness that same presence, starting today, with nothing more than one conscious breath before your words. Now, let's talk about resistance. Because maybe right now your inner voice is saying, "This sounds too simple. Can a single pause really make that much difference?" That skepticism is natural. But let me ask you, how many times has a single word said too fast changed the course of a day for you? One word spoken harshly can ignite an argument. One careless phrase can damage trust. If a single word has that much power, imagine what protecting that word with a pause can do. It's not simplicity that makes this technique weak. It's simplicity that makes it strong. Because it's small enough to use in every conversation you'll ever have. It scales infinitely, and that's why it works. Another question you might be asking is, won't people think I'm awkward if I pause? The answer is no. If anything, they'll respect you more. To you, the pause feels long, like a spotlight is on your silence. But in reality, to the other person, it's barely noticeable. What they do notice is the calmness in your voice afterward. They notice the clarity in your choice of words. They notice the difference in how they feel talking with you. That's the social magic of the pause. It looks like confidence, not hesitation. And once you see how others respond differently to you, you'll want to use it more, not less. Let's anchor this with a powerful metaphor. Imagine every conversation as a river. Emotions are the current, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent. Most people just throw their words into the flow, letting the current carry them away. The pause is like a stone you place in the river. It doesn't stop the current, but it slows the rush just enough for you to choose where to step. That's what makes the difference between being swept away and crossing with intention. And once you learn to place that stone, once you learn to pause, the current no longer controls you. You control your path. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The pause. Before the word isn't just a trick for communication, it's a discipline for life. It teaches you that speed is not the same as strength. That silence can speak louder than noise. That leadership starts not with dominating others, but with mastering yourself. Every pause is a declaration. I own my words, I own my impact. And when you practice that enough, people around you begin to feel it too. They trust you more, they open up more. They see you not as reactive but as reliable. That's influence, that's authority, that's respect, earned one breath at a time. So tomorrow, when you feel the urge to snap or to rush or to defend, I want you to remember this. There is a bridge between reaction and response. You don't have to fall into the gap. You can step across it with one breath. That pause is less than a second, but it contains the power to change the entire conversation, the relationship, even the way you see yourself. And the more you practice it, the more you'll realize it's not about avoiding mistakes anymore. It's about creating a new standard for how you show up in the world. So here's your challenge. Today, not tomorrow, test it once. When someone speaks to you, pause, one breath, then respond. Feel the difference in your tone, in their reaction, in the energy of the moment. That's your first win. Do it again tomorrow, and again the day after. And soon, you won't just be someone who tries not to snap. You'll be someone whose words carry weight, someone who communicates with calm strength, someone who is trusted, respected, and heard, all because you learned to pause before the word. And that's how less than a second can change the entire direction of your life.